And we're going to call this meeting to order. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is going to be an executive session. So it's item B1, and can I please get a motion?
I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons, personnel matters, and/or employee records this evening and at the next meeting.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. It's now 7:03. We're going to go into executive session. I expect that we will be out by 7:30. Thank you. What did he just say? All right, great, thank you. Okay, we are back. It's 7:40 p.m. We did plan for a hard stop at 8. Let's see how we do. Next item on the agenda is item C1, bond proposition. So in the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting last Thursday, several trustees were present, but the committee was there, and the committee made a recommendation for the board to consider having a bond with an unknown amount to cover a roof project to get all the roofs done. The estimate at that time for the roofs was $12,700,000. Thank you. $12,750,000. So the board is going to get some information and make some decisions about which ideas we may have or may not have, and no proposition will be made tonight to put the any bond on the May 16th vote, because there is a secret process that needs to happen first. So I'm going to ask Ms. Raymond to provide the board with some information about some level of a bond to cover roofing project.
Thank you. So the spreadsheet that I handed out, I tried to answer the questions that were asked of me in an email from Trustee Warner, the chair of the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. So at the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, it was decided that we would pursue a roof project. And per BBS Architects, their breakdown from the 5-year capital plan summary that they had submitted in September, they took those prices and they put an escalation on them because of inflation, and this wouldn't happen for a couple years. So the total roof project for LF Jackson, Highview, RJ Bailey, and Woodlands Middle High School would be $12,750,000. If you look at the second box, you will see where could we get this money from. So we have established a capital reserve fund, and there is $1,404,644 in that fund, which the board approved to put in there. If you remember, we can put $15 million, up to $15 million over a 10-year period in that fund. So we put $1.4 million already in there. In our repair reserve, we have $4,254,327, and we would probably like to keep some money in there because it is for repairs, but we don't need that whole almost $4.3 million. So if we kept $700,000 in that reserve, we could transfer by board resolution $3,554,327 to the capital reserve that could be used to help offset a roof project. In the third larger box, you'll see that there were 3 different proposals of this roof project. We could bond the whole $12,750,000. That would be scenario 1. We could bond $9,750,000 and take $3 million from the capital reserve and apply it towards this project, which is what the reserve is for. Or in scenario 3, we could take $4,975,000 and apply it to the bond, and we would bond $7,775,000. By the time we would take the money out to do the bond, we would have that in the capital reserve because of interest earned, and or if we put more money in there from excess fund balance. So what I did was I went to our fiscal advisors and I said, could you please tell me now, at today's rate, from a bond that you have already sold for another school district, what was the interest rate they received, and could you do amortization schedules for me for $12.75 million, $9.75 million, and $7.75 million, $7.775 million, so I could give the board an idea of what the annual payment would be. So you'll see here that I've listed for 15 years. If we had sold the bond at today's 4.50%, these are what we would be paying yearly on these bonds. And these totals are principal and interest. Okay? So if you look at the bottom box, I was also asked what would be the tax rate per 1,000. So if I used this current school year's tax rates, because we know what those are, and I did the 22-23 tax rate per 1,000, currently it's $15.15. If we did the 12.75 million, that would have gone to $15.40 per 1,000 of assessment. If we bonded 9.75 million, it would have been $15.34 per thousand. And if we bonded $7,775,000, it would be $15.30 per 1,000. So I carried it even further, and I showed you what the taxes would be per $100,000 of someone's assessment. And you'll see there that if your house was valued at $100,000, you would have paid $1,515 in taxes this school year. If we would have had a bond for any one of those three scenarios, you would have paid a little more, $1,540, $1,534, or $1,530. But then I took the example that we use in the budget newsletter that we send out, and I took the assessment of $470,330 and showed what that taxpayer pays this school year, $7,122.74. If we had bonded 12.7 million, and again, they're not paying the tax on the 12.75 in 1 year. They're paying just on the portion of the principal and interest that we would have to pay, minus the 10% state aid that we will receive because the taxpayers voted in that referendum this past winter to get us that 10% aid. So if it was, if we bonded the whole 12.75 million, would have paid $7,242, which would have been about a $120 increase. Bonded net 9.75, they'd pay $7,214, which is about a $92 increase. And if we had bonded the $7,775,000, it would be about a $73 increase in their taxes. And again, that is all on this year's tax rates. Obviously, every year the tax rates change. They go up, they go down. But this just gives you an example of had this happened this year and everything was already done, this is what we would have paid.
Okay, trustees, does anyone have any questions, concerns? Trustee Washington, then Warner.
So first and foremost, I want to say thank you for thinking about our school buildings and really working to fix the roofs. There's so much more that needs to be done, but I truly appreciate the fact that the committee and our assistant superintendent of business are trying to get something together for our students. I just have a quick question. I definitely want our schools first, but what about our mansion? Are we able to put that listed in there also?
Well, as you know, the mansion roof the main part of the roof has already been done.
Right.
And they're finishing that flat part. So the roof
So we
for
should
that
be-
will be done before this project would even start.
Perfect. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
You're welcome.
Trustee Warner.
Okay. Thank you for doing this work in a very short period of time. I'm happy that you've provided all of this information. I think that all things considered, I'm more interested in scenario 3. I think I don't want to spend a lot of money on interest if I can avoid it. And we've set aside money for high priority things, and that's what this is for. And I also want to be sort of on the side of minimizing taxes as much as possible while getting things done. So thank you for all of this information, and I like scenario 3.
Thank you.
Trustee Washington?
Okay. All right. So in reference to the scenarios, due to the fact that we have so many other repairs in our schools, it would be nice if, and Greenberg Central School District has not passed a bond, and I think we're trying to maintain the buildings that we have. My opinion only would be to do scenario 1, because that would go to the roofs, and if we had other money to start repairing things that are in our buildings, just like Woodlands High School, the windows are so drafty. I'm not saying that money will cover all of that, but thinking about boilers and thinking about the bathrooms, thinking about other things that are like falling apart in our buildings. So if we could get the community to support scenario 1, and then we could use our other monies to really start to repair the buildings one by one, that would help. That's my personal opinion, to go with scenario 1, because we need it. This is a need for our district, and I don't think we are asking anything that's over and beyond. And I do understand about taxes and inflation, but I'm hoping the community will be willing to do a little bit, because your numbers it's not that big, a little bit more for the students who have been in these buildings. Well, my child's graduating for so many years, and certain things just have not been done.
Thank you, Trustee Washington. Trustee Pineda?
So I'm going to go with scenario 2, which is the happy medium, and I'll tell you why. I agree with you, Trustee Washington. There are a lot of projects that are on the roadmap. Some of those projects will be covered by the EPC, like boilers and stuff like that's already kind of taken care of. There's a lot that's not, but I am also aware of the financial distress that some of our neighbors are under. So I think scenario 2 is a happy medium. I would still, however, do the transfer of funds from the repair reserve to the capital reserve of $3.554 million. That way we have already apportioned some additional money to the capital reserve. I would just leave the extra there so that when we're ready to do the next project, we don't have to do a transfer necessarily. We could just keep going. But that's what I would do. Thank you.
I heard some noise over here. Were you guys saying something? Yes, Trustee Valen?
You're gonna make me. Well, I do have a question first. The CEQA process, will that be completed by next Tuesday, or what's our
That's a
time
good-
frame?
No. So it is my understanding, as soon as we were notified of that yesterday with our meeting with BBS, Mr. Pugliese was in direct contact with our representative from EnviroScience. He initiated the process to begin. We're waiting for that paperwork. Once that gets signed off, then they will start the process, and we're told it would take a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks.
So it's too long to put it on to...
Okay, so hearing that, I don't even know if this is on.
It's on. We can hear you.
I'm thinking out loud, that's all.
So
So it's a
I'll-
moot point
I'll
for a
say,
May
yeah,
vote
it
if
doesn't
it's, if
look
we're not
like-
gonna make the 45-day window.
We're not going to make the budget
So
vote,
it's
no.
not possible to get it on the May vote?
No.
So tell us again how much it costs to have a separate vote?
The estimate was approximately $18,000.
So we're going to ask people to pass the budget in May and then come back at some point in time.
Or wait until the next budget vote.
You did. So that's a
So I
little...
just, I'm not sure, I don't know if we could do some research, but so many of our neighboring districts have passed bonds. Is it always around the time of the budget vote, or has it been other times that they've asked?
a good question.
Always around the time of the budget vote? No,
No.
right?
No, not always around the time of the budget vote. Actually, I just saw, driving past one school, big signs out there having a vote next week.
Before their budget.
It could be any time. So, I'm sorry, one more question. I guess if we can have some information about how, I'm just going to say bad, our roofs really, like, can we wait another year? Because I know being in the buildings and seeing like water literally pour from the roof and like buckets of, you know, the pans of buckets and water, and the custodians having to change it at RJ Bailey. Also
know
down the
that-
hall in the gym area in the high school, like water just comes through.
We will be doing a repair at RJ Bailey for the last storm that happened and all that water that came in there. Even though their roof will be replaced, we have to do something now
Wow.
because it was so bad.
So trustees, do we want to look at a time within this year, maybe, to go again at an 18,000 or so amount to hold another vote? Yes, trustee Valen?
Sorry, let me just pursue this. This is probably going to go nowhere, but I just have to ask. So we need the secret process. They're telling us a couple weeks, but if we just did a secret process for the EPC, if I'm not mistaken, we did a secret process for the Highview roofs and all of that, and we're talking roofs, we're not talking new footprint. We can't piggyback somehow and
I don't believe
abbreviate the
so.
process using the data we just went through and
I believe it's specific to what you're having done.
Yeah, how it affects the environment.
gotcha. Okay.
Now, I can tell you a good note that they said that a secret process for roofs is faster than any other secret process.
That's wonderful. So after we finish our secret process and can actually move forward, our trustees, actually, can I instead get a consensus on which option we would like to do, 1, 2, or 3? That way we would know at least what we're looking at financially. And as trustee Pineda mentioned, starting to transfer over enough funds to take care of whatever we would like to do whenever the secret process is complete. Trustee Warner.
3.
What?
Scenario 3.
Oh, 3. Okay,
I
sorry.
already told you earlier.
Trustee Long?
Scenario 1.
1. Okay. Trustee Washington is 1, right? Trustee Pineda?
2.
2. Trustee Valen?
You're going to hate this.
I am.
Because now if we're not going to take a vote in May, I might say we were waiting for some additional information from admin on other aspects we discussed on Thursday. I might want to consider now including the full envelope. I mean, we were partly doing this now to take the temperature.
Trustee Valen? What number would you like? And then if we're going to
For me,
change
it's
anything.
partly dependent on when the vote is, because we
So you
might
don't
have
wanna
more
vote.
information
Okay.
available from our administration.
Trustee-
If you force me to choose one of these three
Right.
things
Yes.
right this
I'm
very
twisting
second,
your arm.
then I will choose 2.
2. Okay. Trustee Thomas? 2. And I would probably go for, I would probably go for 1 in part because of what you're talking about, Trustee Valen. So for those of you, so then we have 3 people for number 1, 3 people for number 2, 1 person for number 3. Trustee Warner, pick number 1 or 2, please.
2.
Okay. So we would end up in the middle at number 2 if we had to do only the roofs. But what did come up, and I'm going to have to excuse myself, but what did come up at the Finance and Facilities meeting was that some members felt like maybe we should go for a little bit of a larger bond to include the envelopes, and we were trying to fit it on the May vote and kind of agreed to stay lower. So I think that's what you were getting at, Trustee Valen. So Trustee Valen would like to consider, I guess, the possibility of getting more information about how to do more than just the roofs.
So one of those scenarios was roofs and windows, correct, Trustee Valen? And I don't know what that, I didn't bring that with me, what the total dollar amount was.
The scenario presented the other night that includes the building envelope, including roofs and windows, just the building envelope portion, says $35,244,480,
So
which includes escalation and inflation.
So, Trustee Pineda.
That is a huge jump. That's more than double. What I would suggest is we stay the course. We've kind of settled on 2. And as soon as the secret process is done, my suggestion would be that we set up a separate vote. We spend the $18,000, which I hate to do, but let's spend it because this is going to delay the project another year anyways if we don't do it, and we move forward.
I agree with Trustee Pineda, because I believe if we could get this bond out and the community can trust us financially, right? And they see that we are getting the roofs done, because I know a lot of things came out a while ago with another bond, and they were saying, take care of the buildings that you have. So let's do that. We have scenario 2, like Trustee Pineda said. I mean, we all know finances and, inflation, everything is crazy. And then get the trust of our community. And then, hey, we have windows too. You asked us to take care of the buildings. So we're doing it step by step. And I think that, to me, would just be a better way to go forward. I do like Trustee Valen. I would love to spend all the money right away. I'm with you on that. I just want the community to trust us with our bond.
I'll just add in, because sorry, I have to get on this thing. Trustee Warner and I were there in the very beginning meetings of the large bond that did not pass, and I just have some anxiety around talking about adding more things, because that's kind of what happened and how we ended up at 114 million. We started relatively smaller, a lot smaller, like a sixth smaller, and then it just, trustees were like, well, but we really need this, and it just got huge. And I'm a little anxious about that, because I always say, what if we had just stayed small, if it would have passed?
Right. So to agree with you, basically the old strategy was all or nothing, and the new strategy is divide and conquer. So the all or nothing strategy, I mean, I actually tried very hard to push for smaller bonds during that period and got nowhere, just complete stonewall. And so as a result, it was all or nothing, and we got nothing. And to the point at which we got slapped down and felt like we couldn't pass anything for a while. So that was not the way to go. So I would urge us to take it in increments. I would also say that I want the roofs to be done sooner rather than later. So as soon as I can get that secret process done, I want to have that bond voted as soon as I can, because I don't want to go through another winter, if there's a way to avoid it, in which I don't do anything to the roofs.
Trustees, I do have to excuse myself, so I'm going to turn over the meeting to you, Trustee Pineda, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Thank you.
Trustee Valen?
No, I was just going to say I agree, and I appreciate the caution that you're both expressing. I too was not for the, well, we're going to skip the past and move forward. I just want to point out that I want to get the roofs done. The sooner we get the roofs done, the better all the buildings will be. The sooner we can possibly look at installing solar panels. The reason I'm interested in the envelope is because that makes the whole building watertight, weather-tight. And one piece of the puzzle is great to get done, but if we can get the full puzzle completed, that'd be great. And I don't mean everything that needs to be done. I'm just talking about weather-tight buildings. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any statements or comment on this topic? Go ahead, Trustee Along.
Thinking about the larger project and the roofs, I agree, the roofs should be done as soon as we can get them. But that brings me back to thinking about scenario 1. If we don't use so many funds from our current capital and repair reserve, could those go towards the other projects, at least in portion, so that we would ask for the 1275 today and use that money to do some of the envelope and window project?
Okay.
There's all different scenarios that you can come up with. I mean, you can build up your capital reserve and then do a project that's just based around that, that would bond nothing, that would probably, but anything that comes out of the capital reserve has to be voted on by the taxpayers. You can't take it out by yourself as a board.
So a clarification question on that. If memory serves me, the voters already approved the process that we put in 2 years ago, maybe it was, where at the end of the year, if there's any leftover funds, we can transfer that.
Correct.
Because they've given us the approval to the capital reserve for future projects.
That you can put up to $15 million in there.
Correct.
Right, correct.
So, trustee, along with that thought process in mind, this is given the current funding in the capital reserve. If we continue on the path where we still have leftover funds each year, we can continue transferring up to a total of 15 million into that capital reserve for future projects. So that kind of addresses that a little bit. It's not perfect, but I guess in my mind is still, I'd rather not go with the full 12.75 out of the gate, because in my mind, the community is having some financial distress, as most of the world is at this point. So I would still be conservative on that, but that's just me.
And remember also that in the future, if there is excess money in any of your other reserves, you can, as a board, move that to the capital reserve.
So if you can just keep that in the forefront, I guess, financial, fiscal and financial committee, if we can keep that, because we need to be able to do right by our buildings and our students. So we already voted for scenario 2, right, as a board, and then, because I agree with you, and then we need to be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to fixing our buildings.
Okay. I don't see any other hands. That was the only topic we had on the agenda. Trustee Vallon?
So if we can't have the vote in May, when will we may have the conversation about when it would be?
So I would say that as soon as the SEQRA is done, the very next board meeting from that should be the conversation.
Yep, that sounds good.
That way we move it along.
Okay.
Maybe it
So
could
throw
be
that
a
on your
back-to-school
leadership agenda.
bond. We could do a back-to-school bond in September.
I don't know if that'll be received the way you think it will be.
Back to school.
All right. That was the only topic we had on the agenda for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. That said, we're adjourning the meeting at 8:06 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.